Welcome to AgTransitions website. My name is Dave Goeller, and I'm the Deputy Director at the North Central Risk Management Education Center here at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. A little bit about my background. I have 25 years of experience working with farmers and ranchers in Nebraska, in the United States, and even some in Canada, helping them work through this topic of farm and ranch business succession, transitioning a business from one generation to the next, and the whole idea of estate planning. It's been my privilege to work with many great operations. I know a lot of things that work really well, and I know a few things that don't work at all as well. So I'll try to give you some ideas of my insights as we go through this. One thing I can say that as families try to work through this process of identifying a successor, then developing a transition and estate plan to move the business from one generation to the next, those families need to figure out a way to discuss this. Even if it doesn't happen to be a family situation, if it's a non-related situation, you still need to be able to communicate. So I'm going to start with communication being extremely, extremely important. And if you might have noticed, I mentioned that this was a process. I believe this is a process, not an event. Farm business succession and estate planning is not something that we're going to complete in an afternoon or on an evening after we're done watching the news. This is something that's going to take some thought, some consideration, lots of communication, lots of discussion, especially if you're married, have a spouse. It's really important to involve all the parties in this communication. So I'm going to walk through some ideas, some of my observations that I've made over the years, and share some of those with you, and see if I can't get you off to the right start. The first comment I would make is that I mentioned that sometimes there's problems that occur in this process. The biggest problems occur when there has not been any sharing of expectations. So if one generation, for example, has the expectation that they want little Johnny to show up to work at 6 every morning, and little Johnny's not a morning person, he wants to come in at 9:30, we've got a big problem here. So what are the expectations of both generations? Expectations of all kinds of things, not just coming to work in the morning, but what time do you quit at night? What about noon hours? What about vacations? What about weekends? What about ball games? What about insurance? What about salary? What about all kinds of different things? So what are those expectations? Very important to discuss that. One of the other observations I've made over the years is that, especially to the older generation now, you indeed are the expert about your business. No one knows your business better than you do. No computer program, no university employee, no outside expert knows anything about your business compared to you. You're the expert, and you have the ideas and the knowledge and the know-how. You also have the information regarding what your goals are, what your wants are, who you want to give things to. So you're the experts. Don't necessarily rely on anyone else. If you are an individual that wants to pass on a business, consider your legacy continuing on beyond your lifetime and beyond your career, I would encourage you to think of passing this business on from the attitude of a coach and a football player, or a teacher and a student, or a mentor and a successor, rather than a boss and a hired man, or even a parent or a child, or one in authority and one in a subservient position. Because if you can develop that team attitude and share the knowledge that you have with that successor, I think you have a much better chance of being successful. So if you're going to go in and buy seed, for example, it would be important to bring your successor with you. Explain to them how you make your decisions, how you evaluate hybrids, how you look at all the different characteristics and make your decisions. Same thing would be true if you're selling bulls. Bring your successor with you. If you're going to the bank, take him or her with you and explain to them after you're done how you make the decisions that you make. One other observation I make is that everything doesn't have to be equal. When it comes to estate planning, in my opinion, fair is more important than equal. And sometimes that's a hard thing to determine what's fair. But one of the concepts that's been fairly successful for us has been to consider what are the individuals contributing to the business, and therefore what will you compensate them for that contribution. And if you have one individual that's contributed years and years of their life and not been paid a very high wage, you might think about compensating them more in the estate plan. I told you I was going to end with communication, and I just need to say one more word about that. It's really important to communicate this plan. It can be the greatest plan in the world, but if you're not able to communicate it with your spouse or your successor or your child or whomever happens to be involved with your team, it probably doesn't have a very good chance of being successful. Hopefully this will be a little bit of a guide for you as you go through this program, and thank you.